Welcome to my studio here on the South Shores of Boston, Massachusetts. Well, it's another Saturday, another vlog day. Last week I had a number of topics I went over with you, and it was a bit longer a blog than I anticipated, and I promised you that I would narrow it down to one topic this week. Well, I'm breaking that promise. There's too much going on. There's too much to share, so we're going to go over a couple different topics today, but I'll try to keep it shorter than last week's. First of all, I wanted to give out a shout out to my all-time favorite coffee house, Red Eye Roasters. They're right here on the South Shores, right in Hingham Harbor, right on the water. It's an awesome coffee house, by far the best coffee I've ever had. They have this little roast, they roast it right there. It's a tiny place. I give them a shout out. I've posted them a couple times. I give them a shout out because they've remained opened during the entire pandemic. They immediately figured out how to continue to roast and how to serve their coffee safely. You can't spend any time in the cafe anymore. You go in, you order your coffee, then you have to exit the cafe, and coincidentally, there is a window right where their machines are, right where they're making the coffee. There's a window, so that window turned out to be a takeout window. So you go outside, you wait for your coffee, and they hand it to they put it on this little shelf that they set up right out of the window, and you take your coffee and you go. And they figured that out like immediately when everything shut down. I'm sure they're struggling through this pandemic because that coffee house was always crowded. It didn't matter what time of day it was. There were people hanging out, drinking coffee. They had some really great food, paninis and some scones and cookies, and they were just always crowded. So they have a loyal clientele base. They've hung in there. I try to go there once a week or so, but they have to be struggling. I can't wait for the weather to warm up, for them to reopen, for things to reopen. But until then, if you're here on the Boston area, go to Red Eye Roasters, buy some coffee, buy a couple pounds so you can have it during the week in your home, and visit them and support them. I just picked up one of their hats today. My favorite coffee house by far. Second shout out, I have a couple pieces and I want to find a home for these couple pieces. These are great pieces of artwork. Number one is my Enzo in cement. Now I listed this a couple weeks ago. It was a great experiment. I'm going to continue to make more of these, but I want to give this guy a home. So what it is, I create the Enzo when the cement is still wet. I create the Enzo, I let it dry, and then I go back into it with my inks and my washes. So this piece here is framed. This is called a floater frame. The piece is actually inlaid into the frame itself. Solid wood, Italian made. It's a great looking frame. It's shipped off to you and it's ready to hang. You'll have all the hardware for you to hang it right on your wall. So let's give this guy a great home, and you'll find it in my Enzo collection. And keep your eye out because I'll be making more cement Enzos. Fun project. Second piece needs a good home. Now this piece is over a year and a half old. It was entered in the South Shore Art Center. Every year they have a blue ribbon show for all their member artists. And this piece won first place last year. It's an awesome piece. I love it, but it's time to let it go. Lots of interesting things going on with this piece. I call it refined rustic. Rustic refined. There's the refined element of the piece is, first of all, it's on my favorite medium, cold press watercolor paper. But the paper itself is then applied to newsprint. If you looked on the side of this piece, you would see all this cool newsprint. So the watercolor paper is mounted on this big block of New York Times. And then it's glazed over. There's a couple really rustic nails that hold the glaze onto the piece itself. And then it looks like it's resting on a ledge. This piece of wood was reclaimed from a demo work building was being demolished. The piece of wood itself is probably 150, 200 years old from the building that it was in. There's a bunch of tacks on it and nails, again, rustic and refined. I cleaned it up and varnished it, but it still has a really rough look to it. It is made to hang on your wall, but it looks like it's resting on that piece of wood, little ledge. So this needs to find a great home. It'll be listed. It's not listed yet. I'll try to throw it up today. It'll be listed in the abstract collection. It looks like an Enzo. It feels like an Enzo, but I'm going to put it in the abstract collection. So look for it there and give it a good home. And I'll make sure it's fully documented. It'll be ready to hang when it's shipped off to you. So let's move on to today's topics. I'll try to keep this to 2 topics today. Number 1 is I've been thinking a lot about the ecology of artwork, and we touched base upon this last week when I launched onetreeplanted.org. Every single piece of artwork that is purchased, whether it's on MatthiasStudios.com or whether it's Surface Design Within Reach, every single piece of artwork, every item will plant a tree. So that got me further thinking about the ecology of artwork and what can I do in my studio to further be eco-friendly in the production of my work. So I'm launching a new series of work and you'll see that they are labeled just like the onetreeplanted.org. Each piece has this icon. When it's listed in the gallery, you'll see that it's planting a tree. You'll also see I'm now launching a line called Zero Waste Art. Artwork that has no waste involved. It's an eco-friendly piece of artwork. You'll see that icon. I started a couple pieces in the Enzo collection. So what is zero waste artwork? Well, first of all, it's applied to a reclaimed application. Reclaimed. So as you know, I love the New York Times. I have a huge stack over here in my studio. It's literally this high of papers, New York Times papers. So that's step 1, is applying my artwork to reclaimed items, reclaimed surfaces. So I do a lot of work on the New York Times. So that's a reclaimed surface, that's a recycled item. Step 2, the ink itself that's being applied to the reclaimed paper. The ink is eco-friendly ink. It's remade or it's eco-friendly. I have purchased inks that are completely natural, eco-friendly inks, but I have started creating my own inks. I've started experimenting with my own inks. So I scavenger, it's like a scavenger hunt in the woods, and I try to find materials that are deteriorating in the woods, and I turn them into inks and washes. It's been a challenging process, but it's starting to come to fruition. The two Enzos that are listed are completely handmade, eco-friendly inks from Mother Nature herself. You can see I have all these sriracha bottles. I probably have 100 sriracha bottles. I'm putting my experimental inks and my washes in them. So that's step 2. Step 3, and I don't have a brush with me, the brushes are even reclaimed. How I'm applying the inks to the Enzos themselves on the paper. I found this bucket of brushes, I don't know, it was over 3-4 years ago. Somebody threw away all these brushes. I couldn't believe it. And I snagged that bucket up. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. Some of them were pretty beat up. But I saved them, and I've cleaned them up, and I'm now reusing them. So even the brushes are reclaimed. Zero waste art in production in my studio. And I'm doing that because actually when I look at my process, there's a lot of waste involved, regrettably. 85 to 90% of my artwork is destroyed, thrown away, gotten rid of. And that's the nature of abstract artwork. Most of it just doesn't have the look that I want for it to be listed. And actually, potters, my good friend Gary Pletch, Penn Avenue Pottery in Pittsburgh, PA. Gary is an awesome potter. I love his work. And, you know, he experiences the same situation. When that pottery leaves the kiln and he's reviewing it, a lot of that pottery gets destroyed or it's resold at like dirt level pricing because he's not happy with that particular piece. The same thing happens in the studio with abstract artwork. So, like my minis could be considered eco-friendly because what I do is I take if a large piece doesn't work out for me, I'll chop that piece up and I'll create like this is a really cool mini that'll be framed and listed soon. So that's what my minis come from, larger works that are not cutting it for full listing. So I'll cut them up and I'll find cool looking little minis. I keep those artificially low in price so that everybody can get themselves original artwork. I want everybody to have original artwork. You know that story. I preach on it every time I do a vlog. So that's what eco-friendly artwork is all about, trying to neutralize the waste that I'm creating. Be eco-friendly. And I'm doing that because I'm trying to give Mother Earth back, trying to give her something back. I walk on her ground, I breathe her air, but I'm also very inspired. She inspires me to create the artwork that I have been creating. Seascapes, landscapes, it's all creeping into my artwork. Even my Enzos they come out of meditation, but a lot of that meditation is what Mother Earth has been giving me on a daily basis. So that's what eco-friendly artwork is all about. Find that icon and that'll tell you that piece is zero waste artwork. So the last topic that I wanted to cover today, I've gotten a lot of DMs on this. I've gotten some emails on this, so I wanted to clarify it and just expand upon it. I touched base on it last week. You'll see I've been putting a logo up on my social medias called Art 1000K. That is all about, like I want everybody to have original artwork in their life. Well, I just want to share the arts in general with as many people as I can possibly reach out to. So the whole point of this campaign is to give art to people. If you noticed, I post other artists' work, I post arts organizations, I post nonprofit charities, I even post profit-making ventures. There's a number of galleries that have really impressed me. They've struggled through the pandemic. Galleries have been hit hard. Artists have been hit hard. Performers have been hit extremely hard. So I just want to share those people and those organizations. So Art 1000, it's all about getting the arts to as many people as I possibly can. So when you see a post on my social media about another artist, about an arts organization, about a ballet, about an orchestra, about a museum, share that post with other people. Spread the love. Spread the arts. That's what Art 1000 is all about. It's just about spreading the love. Give the arts to as many people as you possibly can. Because I believe that when an individual is touched by art, that individual becomes creative. That's part of the process. When you are touched by art, you become creative. It is the cessation of stagnation. That's what art does. It is the cessation of stagnation. So Art 1000 is all about sharing the arts with as many people as we possibly can. Well, I think that's it for my vlog on this Saturday. Until next week, I'll see you again. And until then, let's give these guys a good home and start collecting original artwork. I'll see you next week.